my name's Jason Thornburg. I'm a police officer here in Farmington. I am a sergeant and I'm currently in the traffic division.
Hi, I'm Greg Burridge. I'm an officer in the Farmington Traffic Division and I've been here since 2015.
Today we want to give you some insight into what a day in the life of a traffic officer is.
So we're going to talk about things that we commonly do on patrol, as well as some of the math we use when we were reconstructing accidents.
As traffic officers, we have really three main activities. We enforce laws to keep everybody safe on the roads. We look for drunk drivers, and anytime there's a car crash, we go and investigate that and see what happened.
A very important part of the job of a traffic officer is to enforce traffic laws. That just makes sure that we're doing our best to keep everybody safe on the road, that people aren't speeding down the roads while you kids are riding your bikes or speeding through your school zones while you're walking to school. So you'll see our officers out. We have a couple different ways of measuring vehicle speed. And in this segment, we'll talk about radar and laser. For this exercise, we're going to use a radar device. It's mounted here on my dash and it's connected to this radar antenna. What this does is it sends out radar waves, which then hit vehicles and bounce back within the radar. It then is able to calculate vehicle speeds. We use that to enforce those speeding violations and stop drivers that are speeding down the road. All right, so we are here at the range. We're going to have Officer Burridge drive by. We're going to see how fast, if we can tell how fast he's going using the radar. So here he comes. We hear the tone, and 35 miles an hour. All right, and this time we're going to have Officer Burridge go a little bit faster. It's getting up to 64 miles an hour. All right, so as you heard on that video, as we watched him as he was speeding up, you probably heard a loud tone on the radar. The faster the person is going, the louder that tone. So when we're watching vehicles, we are making a visual observation and estimation of that vehicle speed. From there, we're looking at the radar. We're making sure that the speed displayed on the radar matches the tone and matches our estimation of the vehicle speed. Part of our training is we go out and watch a number of cars without a radar, and we have to be able to estimate vehicle speed. That is an important part of the job. Another advantage to using radar as opposed to laser, we don't have to be sitting still. We can use it while we are driving around on patrol each day. All right, so we're gonna act like we're going out on patrol here. This is a 30 mile per hour zone. So we're officers, we're just cruising. Here comes a black car. He looks like he's going pretty fast. Oh, turn on the lights and siren, get him to slow down a little.
So now we're going to talk about using a laser. Now, we talked about how a radar works. The laser works in a similar fashion in that it's giving us a vehicle speed. But I'm looking through this sight and I'm putting it directly on the object that I want it to tell me the speed on. Now, when the laser goes out, it's moving at about 1 foot every nanosecond. So it's very, very fast. And it's sending out a pulse of 150,000 pulses every second. So when I start to pull the trigger, it's sending this laser out to the object and it's coming back to the machine and it will tell me how fast it's going. So what the machine told me was that I had that vehicle doing 39 miles an hour and it registered that the vehicle was 100 feet away from me. So something that people don't know is that we can use these speed instruments both when vehicles are coming towards us and away. So that vehicle that was moving away from us, at first when it was in front of the patrol car, it registered that it was doing 52 miles an hour. The final speed I had it at was 55 miles an hour, and that was when it was 227 feet away from me. So when we're on patrol, one of the things we're looking for is suspected impaired drivers. Now when we're out driving around monitoring traffic, we do this through vehicle speed, and we also do it while we're driving on the roadway itself. So this vehicle in front of me, for example, as I come up behind it, I'm looking for simple indications that might lead me to believe that there's something wrong with the driving ability. So you see he is on his left turn signal, but he's turning right, and he also didn't stop before the stop sign. So I would start to follow this driver and observe any other infractions that he did wrong on the roadway. You see how he came off of the roadway. Now there's a stop sign here, but he doesn't appear to be stopping at it. At this point, I would feel that I need to stop him for the safety of the community. And you can see that he didn't pull to the right side of the road like people normally do when we do traffic stops.
One of the other vehicles that we have in the traffic division is our bikes. We use them a lot when it comes to parades, when people are in close proximity to each other, such as the 4th of July celebration days. We use them during the displays. Now, a lot of times during the parades, you'll see us going up and down along the floats, and everyone always wonders what we're doing. Well, we're trying to keep people out of the street so that someone running into the street to go after candy won't get hit by one of the float drivers. And it's just a safety issue for us to make sure that everyone's enjoying the parade and no one's there to be hurt. Another big question we get about the bikes is, why is it that they don't make any noise? Well, a few years back we got rid of all of our Harleys and we're using electric motorcycles. So if you come over here, you'll see that on a normal motorcycle this would be a gas tank. And this isn't a gas tank. This is where we store additional equipment. It doesn't take fuel, it's completely run on a battery, which you see right here. So right now the motorcycle's on and it's running. The engine's ready to send power through the wheels if I was to pull on the throttle, but it doesn't make any noise at all. It operates the same as a normal motorcycle in the sense of moving. It has emergency lights just like our Harleys did, and as well as a siren. We can also issue citations from these the same way we do in our police cars, where we have a computer and we're able to print off the citations that we're giving to people that have committed driving infractions. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you some of the math we use as crash reconstructionists. And one of the common equations we use is the minimum speed formula. So for us to do this, we got to go out in the field and we have to put down some skid marks that we can measure. So now we're going to talk about some of the math that we commonly use on crash scenes as reconstructionists. So for us to find out the speed of a vehicle, there's a couple different variables that we have to find out before we can plug them into our equation. The first one being, how far did the vehicle skid? And when I say skid, when someone locks up all their wheels, when they press the brakes as hard as they can and the vehicle's sliding forward, you saw earlier that it leaves marks on the road. So what I need to know is I need to know the total distance of the length of these skids. So when we were out in the field and we're putting skids down, the number was 158 feet. The other thing I need to find out is the drag factor on the road. And I know that sounds really complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. Every single roadway surface has more or less of a drag factor.
So if you think about when the road's wet or icy, it's more slippery. So the drag factor is much lower because the vehicles aren't able to grip to the roadway as easily as they are when the road is warm. When it's sunny out and there's no water on the roadway, the drag factor is higher. So on this particular day when we were putting down the skids, I know that the drag factor for the roadway was 0.67, which is pretty normal because the average usually runs somewhere around 0.7. So now I'm going to get rid of this page. I'm going to show you the equation that we're going to use to find out the speed of this vehicle. So the equation that I'm going to use is the square root of 30, which is a mathematical constant, times the distance times the drag factor. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my numbers to these equations so it looks easier for me to visualize. So again, the square root 30, my distance was 158, and the drag factor is 0.67. So I'll do one part first. So 30 times 158 is
4740.
and then 4740 times 0.67.
3175.
So now I need to find the square root of 3175, which is
56.35.
and this is the miles per hour that the vehicle was traveling in at a minimum when it applied the brakes. So here's a real world application of using some math skills. What we're going to do is we're going to figure out how fast you can run or ride your bike in miles per hour, and it's very easy to do. The first thing we need to do is we need to measure off a distance. So with your friend's help or your parents' help, we're going to measure off 50 feet, or we can do 25 feet, but we have to know how far the distance is. So once we measure that out, either ride your bike or run from one point to the other while someone's timing you. So now that we know the distance that you ran or rode your bike and the time it took you to go from the 2 points, we can do a simple equation to find out how fast you were going. And this is how we're going to do it. So in this equation, our S is speed, and it's going to be feet per second. The D is for distance, and the T is for time. So to figure out the speed, if you went 50 feet, we're going to put in 50. And we're going to divide by the time it took you to go that distance. So let's say it took you 5 seconds. Then we're going to get 10. So the 10 is representative of a speed number, but in feet per second. So it's 10 feet per second. But if we want to find out your miles per hour, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to divide again by 1.46. So 10 divided by 1.46 is roughly 6.8 miles per hour. So what you can do at home now is you can do this equation with your parents or with your friends, and you can figure out who's able to ride their bike the fastest or run the fastest in a certain distance.